You can see now?
Yes.
Okay.
And what I will be, let me just give me 1 minute. Let me share this Zoom link on the WhatsApp groups so that people are. 1 second. I need to give multiple reminders to people.
I sent that out as well. I'm just I need to just, but I can just scroll. See, it's not letting me see. Oh, no, it does. There you go. Awesome. Perfect. We'll let people come in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I'm just putting my system is little very slow today. I don't know what happened. I was
No
running.
problem. And then I just sent you Ahmad's.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Okay, awesome.
I just one sec.
I'll send you some.
It's very slow. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope okay. It's already streaming. People will be we. Oh, 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 oh.
I can share that group.
Today is WhatsApp is behaving very strange.
I have his number. I can send. Okay.
Okay, one more
Yeah,
thing. What I
send
will be
video
doing,
demo.
Tony, is I will be muting
Okay.
the participants because participants they join with their mics
Okay.
open. Usman, please, yeah. So this because I am going to mute the mics and I will be moderating the session. I will be asking questions. If there are any questions on the chat, I will be. How do you want? You want the Q&A in the end, or you want to in the?
Either they can do a little bit of both. If people want to ask questions, we can do it in the middle too, because no rush.
Right.
Whatever you feel is easier for you.
Right. As we go through, we'll feel the dynamics and then give and take
Sure.
questions.
Yeah. So, Santanu is saying add me to WhatsApp group. Yeah, Santanu, I will share. So I will just introduce the today's show. I don't want to waste your guys' time is precious time. So it is streaming on YouTube as well. So welcome everyone to the AI show. This is an initiative that we do every week at 7 p.m. We do it on a Tuesday, 7 p.m. UAE time and 3 p.m. UTC. But yet we have a physical event tomorrow in Abu Dhabi. That is the reason why I requested Johnny to prepone this to 1 day earlier. So we have here Mr. Johnny Stevenson and Hamad Dada. Both are founders of SoundSafe AI. Johnny is mostly looking into, he has around 2 decades of experience, and he will give more details about about himself. He Today they are going to talk more about how AI sound innovation including deepfake audio and watermarking technology, are transforming industries while addressing challenges in authenticity, security, and ethical use. And Johnny has been a part of our community, and I really personally thank both of Johnny and Hamad to come and share their knowledge. Both have amazing experience in this space, and both of them are leading this amazing company at soundsafe.ai where they are building amazing technology. I will pass on the stage to both of them. They can just talk a little bit about their background and start with the presentation. Over to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Yes. So hello, everyone. My name is Johnny. I'm one of the co-founders of SoundSafe. My background has been in music, majority of my life for the last 20 years. Since I was a child, I fell in love with music. I got into tech as a kid when a lot like us in video games and then computers, eventually falling into the intersection of music and audio and technology. I fell in love with managing music catalogs and intellectual property and audio integrity and different samples of audio from music production to vocals. And I've personally dealt with different horrible technology and slow tracking and just trying to figure out where my audio, intellectual property, and music has gone from major catalogs I've managed to people I've worked with in the industry. And then through the years, I've actually met Hamad through musicians I've managed, and we've felt the same about a lot of different issues and technology in the audio space, primarily in music, but it stems into multi-sectors, from security to um, deepfake technology. And we decided to start doing a lot of research during COVID on different research papers coming out of Harvard, Princeton, a lot of these major colleges and tech institutes on like audio signal processing and audio technology, watermarking. We really studied what was happening in the past 100 years that we've done because we've known audio watermarking has been going on for watermarking has been going on for many years. And that's kind of where we started. And Don can kind of explain his background, and then we'll get into the more technology and what we're going to be talking about today.
Absolutely. I'm originally from the Middle East. I grew up in Canada. My whole life I was a musician from, playing with a Casio keyboard when I was small to, joining bands and playing Fender bass to all the way to digital production and moving on forth. Parallel to that, I've always been in computers. I studied in cybersecurity, telecom, and that really touched into play. Like Johnny said, we came at the cross section of meeting artists and working together. A lot of our pain points were synergetic. Everything we spoke about was how everything is diluted, content-wise, not just in music and just everything, how in the digital age now, proliferation is incredible. Art has been democratized, content making has been democratized, so there's a lot of influx and there's a lot of uploads happening. And how we're going to situate ourselves with this, specifically with the core pain point of who did what and how and what did they do with it, because it's mine, and somehow it dilutes the point of even doing it, because how do you monetize on something you cannot track? So as the years went by, we realized that big initiatives like Google, Meta had their own tagging ways, tracing or whatnot, but the biggest issue we found is robustness, because the cunning of the average person always precedes these things. So we made sure that, like Johnny said, we had our fundamentals, but we really dug in to see what are the new ways and the new breakthroughs that are being done and how we can combine and come up with something proprietary that is our own. That's where everything came together. We started formulating our own ways by first learning the evolution. As far back as we know, any type of content that has been being put out from the 13th century on, there's been some type of protection against it to either prove where it came from, so provenance, or authentication, whether it's a forgery or not. From early paper watermarks down to what we saw in pictures and photographic stuff in the early 19th century and on. And right now, where we're at is AI and quantum watermarking, which is pretty much what's going to set the underlaying for what's going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years. As much as it opened up so much positive innovation, it also allowed a lot of bad acting to happen.
So in the music industry, what we saw, the timeline was different. Technology was advancing in almost every sector in music, from how we listen to kind of how we purchase, how we distribute and sell music. It became abundant that technology was advancing in the creative sectors, generative AI, but nothing was really getting done on the provenance and intellectual property side and where everything was going. We saw music get sampled in America, and then producers in Germany make billions of dollars at labels using samples from different. And then we saw everywhere. We saw people stealing music, and we couldn't really figure out where the root of it was. And then when we noticed the technology behind a lot of the B2B side of it, things was outdated. They're still working on cue sheets and writing things down, even using simple technology spreadsheets. There was no automation. There was not much AI. There was no, I would say, innovation or advancements. So we were like really trying to understand, where was the delay and why was music and audio creative pursuing advancements, but the tech side of, the money, the finances, and where everything was going. And then we found out a way where we could kind of interject these businesses into one model where technology and audio can kind of be up to date.
Now, what we did see with Meta and YouTube is something what we call content ID. It was something that got us excited, especially as on a production level, we were able to see who, either took a sound to create some content or an artist used a production to create a new song, hadn't properly credited, whether they forgot to or they did not know. There was ways to kind of find similarities, and it could help you, claim a dispute or take down. But robustness was the issue. TikTok recently proved that if you were to speed up the sound by a certain percentage or slow it down, that detection process under content ID is thrown out the window. There are many other companies that kind of worked on more finding ways of getting a snapshot of the image itself. So even if you were to warp it a bit, you were able to kind of detect it. But they completely forgot all the real world usage, meaning in a studio, or whether it be online content, a child or somebody making online content, or professional people in the studio, there are many occurrences where the sound is chopped, concatenated, manipulated, echoed, phased. There are so many different things that happen to the audio that would take away the integrity of tracking it blindly, meaning without any embedding. And then even when you can do that, how do you still prove its provenance and who owns it? Now that you just proved the match. So what we came up with is figuring out a way to combine ownership information and tracking the sound itself.
So the new issue we have is generative AI and audio vocal training on unauthorized IP or owner-owned audio. We've seen it in the music industry. As some of you guys might know, in the United States, Drake is one of the most renowned music artists from Canada, sorry. And he had an AI song. Someone generated his voice and made its own AI song, which made money on different streaming music platforms, which brought us to, dive in deep to the multi-use of audio detection, not only in music, but we have people stealing intellectual voices of family members and trying to manipulate other family members to send money. So there's piracy and corruptness in the civilian sector of every day. So it wasn't just music. We had to really think about how could audio be manipulated in a technical way, even if people wanted to remove watermarks or remove detection algorithms or any tools we've had embedded in any technologies. And we've created a solution, over the last few years, building it.
And that was the major contrast. We wanted to make sure that it's not only a soft bind, that it's not only something on a server where you match a sound or a waveform and then try to pull up a soft bind on a server. We wanted to combine the hybrid format. So it's a hard bind and a soft bind. The hard bind format is we take the 18 essential ownership information pieces or fields that are standard throughout the record industry, or anything has to do with movies or any type of content online and on the internet or anything like that, or even on platforms. These are attributables. This is the attribution layer that we wanted to embed into the sound file completely. The way we do it too is in a way that it survives these manipulations, these chops. So we make sure it's completely embedded even in the smallest areas of the sound and decoded in the same way. Now, what we also wanted to do is be platform agnostic. So we're not depending on their infrastructure. We depend on our own infrastructure for training, inference, all the way down to servicing all our clients on an enterprise level. We first take all the data features that we see in the audio file. We embed the ownership information in it in a way that is encoded that, like Johnny said, whether it's nefarious or not, we're doing two things: matching the sound to detect the probabilities of how much is it. And as opposed to content ID, it does not have to be a certain percentage minimum. It can detect even 1% usage of a sound, even when it's manipulated. This is where we make our edge. Once that is detected, we then proceed with our model to extract the embedded information. This is the forensic attribution layer that is missing right now in the current process that we see, even at the highest level with Google. This is what we're also proposing to the C2PA, which is the regulatory group that Google comprises of with Meta and other people. And we're trying to make this the new underlying standard for all attribution layers for audio content. For many reasons. It obviously allows the tracking on the surface level and the accurate reporting. This obviously gives better empowerment for the business. It allows them at a cheaper cost to go retrieve money they couldn't retrieve before because of the lack of forensic detail to it. This also helps their litigation. This also helps streamline all their deals in licensing and publishing. Now, on the security side of things, there are a lot of proliferation in terms of leaks in audio. That same detection allows us to kind of see a map of what everything is going on. But it's not enough. We always look at what AI is doing, and it's moving at an incredible speed. Internet used to go at a very linear upward trend. Right now, we're looking AI turn things completely going, out of control when it comes to how fast it's going. And we've seen very, very high-level accurate vocal deepfakes, whether it be in the music industry or just in general, people that are using it to deceive or fraud. And this is where we came up with our real-time deepfake detection that leverages the initial watermark learning and kind of acts as the real-time backbone to it, whether it be for platforms, for social media content, whether it be for record labels to understand what has been generated in their production camps, whether it be AI or not, and which AI model generated it or not, as well as the vocals. But the peak interest of what this does is to prevent the misuse or fraud of actual people's likeliness, whether it be for the entertainment industry or just regular life, banking, insurance, all of that. On a high level, even when we're automating call centers with agentic AI, there's still the human that's still calling in every day. We're going to be seeing AI versus AI very soon. So people using cloned voices against agentic AI trying to fraud banking and this and whatnot. This is where we step in on a multi-layer acoustic integrity analysis, because it's just not enough to match somebody's voice. Current deepfake detection is, does it come out the same sibilance, tonalities, and a bit of other things. We went in and we talk about things kind of like prosodic features. We add emotional intention and certain things that AI can't really get to 100%, even if it can do it at the 99. We don't look if it matches the 99 or not. We look for that 1% discrepancy, and that is usually enough to prove with confidence that you're either speaking to a human or to an AI.
And there was a lot of things we saw, issues when people in our space building, whether it was watermark or deepfakes. For example, the watermark in the States and some countries that have this other technology, whether the startups or existing conglomerate, they were missing the key component of what we do. Is a lot of them were building watermark tools and models on one. We found out building a multi-model working as one helped do different attacks. So say we have a certain attack that comes from manipulating the audio. Well, we have soft attacks that will make sure we don't have to scan the whole audio, and we can move on, whether it's a detection or not detection. If it's a detection, then we move on to the next layer of the watermark, the next model, and so on and so forth. We even go to the length of using what we call acoustic DNA, which we took audio and technology and figured out how we could really understand each other.
Think of how DNA works. It always breaks down to a sequence of 4 proteins. We looked at it the same way. Once the embedding is done, we convert it into kind of a stack. Look at it as a stack of 3 sequences. So DNA has 4, our acoustic DNA has 3 sequences. So as long as you have a certain amount of that 3 sequence left on the audio, we can, to a certain level, reconstruct the destroyed watermark, as we say, quote unquote, to a certain level and retrieve as much as we can of the 18 fields that can help further prove provenance and authentication and ownership.
And then we found an issue. A lot of these companies, Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, what you guys have maybe in your country, and I guess in the Middle East, even Europe, everybody has different platforms to stream and listen to music from, but they all kind of rely on the same infrastructure. The typical infrastructure, which can't handle a lot of tools like what we're building because of the weight, as you guys know, as maybe some of you are developers, the weight of connecting our APIs could weigh down your current platform, cause issues, bugs, whatever it may be. We figured, there has to be something we can do to whether it's a built in or it's its own self. So
we definitely looked at resource as a cost. When we're presenting business models to especially high-level enterprises, the first thing we talk about is the load and where does it reside and how do we scan this incredible amount of data? Because we're pretty much in beyond big data. This is mega data at this point at the rate that it's happening. And their main issue is resource allocation. We showed them that within our multimodal setup, we have a proprietary hybrid model that its only task is efficiency, whether it be scanning, encoding, decoding, tracking, reporting. Any task that it does, it goes on a probabilistic method. Is it worth or not? So we have methods and algorithms that when it's scanning, it sees, do I scan just a little based on something? It doesn't bring back enough of a probability, move on to the next one. On the reporting, same thing. On the real-time detection, same thing. We're always trying to reduce how much the models are inferred and how much computation is happening at all times.
And from like a business perspective, that's like a secondary question you have. Obviously, you're talking more business. Then when the dev teams start talking, that's when you come into these issues. We've built a lot of the architecture ourselves, so we knew the problems we might come into, and we just wanted to make sure those problems were a little more or less heavy on our, whatever it's our partner or on us.
Another alignment we ensured from the beginning. There's every industry has a standardization, whether it be naming conventions, data labeling conventions, anything that has to do with the basic rule of understanding to standardize everything. So we made sure in our industry that all the data we embed, all the data we track with, send, report is completely already, as we say, hot pluggable with the current infrastructures that they have when it comes to naming conventions. So when it comes to updating databases, data replication, making sure everything is on the up and up across the board globally, we are completely streamlined with that. Now, there are several gatekeeping proxy companies, such as the RIAA here in the US. They handle the certification for sales, but they're handling the presentation of the tech in a way that the major labels allowed their APIs to be used with their existing catalogs and masters to test up and coming state-of-the-art technology and its robustness against it. So these are things right now that are currently in process, and that we're trying to show them that it's not only about utilizing AI and be generalist about it. There are certain things that have to be niched and certain things that have to be put on a focus before it's adopted.
Yeah, and we see in different countries, United States is starting to crack down on generative AI training on vocals. If we see, Europe and the EU cracking down hard on AI in general. I don't know what's happening, in the Middle East. I do know in the music side in the Middle East, there's a company called ESMA, which they are controlling the intellectual property rights of musicians and copyrights of musicians, and they have initiatives as well. Almost every country is kind of trying to figure out what to do with intellectual property in audio. The biggest thing is it's good for people like us in tech to kind of get involved and see where we can kind of plug and play what we know as far as what we can do in AI today.
Adding to what Johnny said about ESMA, the UAE in the Middle East has really presented itself as a leader when it comes to both intellectual property, fair compensation, transparent ecosystems when it comes to audio content in general, whether it be music or just generic entertainment on content, and even down to the likeliness. We've reached out to them in certain ways, obviously for company outreach and things like this, but we're realizing that there's a lot of proactiveness on that side that we're trying to meet halfway and bridge it. This will accelerate things faster than what we're seeing in Europe. Europe, I find they're on a trajectory to getting their stuff together late towards the decade, so 2028 to 2030. Whereas the US and the UAE, we're looking to really kind of have the dust settle in terms of what regulation would be, protocol, and new conventions within the next year. At the rate that we're going. So we will be setting the precedent, and it's amazing to see that we will be the ones ushering that in at the same time.
And there's a thing in our technology space called dual use. And some of you might have heard it in you guys' space as well, where our technology kind of overlaps in many sectors, whether it's civilian and music and audio and intellectual property, or deepfakes in public sectors of scams and vocal deepfakes. And then we go over to the Department of Defense and the security side of things, which are any technology that's dealing with intellectual property and deepfake technology can be used for both. We do leverage both. It so happens to be in the Middle East, we've already made connections with other DoDs that kind of have similar issues in the technology space when it comes to AI. So Don and I have created different ideas and models to kind of be a dual use model. So some of your models and your projects might be only good, you might think, in one sector, and whether it's generative AI or AI security, but it can be overlapped into a lot more. You just kind of have to think away from the book a little bit when it comes to building your models and kind of see, who applying the model to everything and seeing where it sticks.
It sounds safe, but like a lot of what we've seen at its core, everything we have is sound driven and AI leveraged. And at its root, whether it's public sector or the government sector, there's dual use on each side. So it's almost like a quad use, because the watermark itself and the real-time deepfake has multiple sectors within the public sector, and that same layout or foundation applies on the other side, where we're securing communication channels for the military or security groups, as well as making sure that their missions are secure in that sense. But then touching back on what I said, multiple innovations that stem from sound driven and AI leveraged. Acoustics have such a depth that a lot of people miss, and this is stuff we'll get to later. But at its high level, we always like to highlight exactly what we're doing, and it covers everything that what we do, whether it be the watermark, the deepfake, and every other innovation that stems from that, whether it be the music sector, the banking sector, and everything that's public, down to the multiple platforms, and then going on to defense. We're ensuring provenance. We're safeguarding monetization, meaning whether it be artists, shareholders, company owners, homeowners, families,
Celebrity voices.
celebrities. What we're doing at its root is either securing money or preventing loss of money, and empowering business to go get more money. At the root again of it, everything is copyright and IP, whether it be in this context, the musical works, but let's also think any other audio-based IP that can be anywhere. That too is being proliferated and diluted in blurred lines. That too can help. Licensing accuracies. When it comes to streamlining licensing, maybe some of you guys are I would say aware of the timelines that are behind the processes of clearing ownership or reaching out to somebody to ensure fair compensation. Litigation that comes to that. It is high cost, long term. These are things we're trying to streamline by bringing it to low cost and to
Like
short-term.
a good example would be, let's say, like a producer from the Middle East who averages $100 a month or a year even on making music, but he releases it online. A music studio or music producer from his studio in the UK or the United States picks up that sound and sample and decides to add it into his own. That becomes a score in a movie that gets released all over the world. That original creator has no way of even telling he owned it or even seeing if, hey, it was malicious or not. It's a big problem in the audio and music sector, but when it comes to the multi-sectors, we see that training vocals on models, whether it's malicious or not, we found that at least to have a dashboard to see where it's going is at least reasonable. Whether it's for hard security or just monetizing off your analytical data, or recouping money, or lawyers trying to understand where people's intellectual property are going, and so on and so forth. So I think that's oh no, last slide. So an examples for the multi-use case. Music side in the States, we have PROs, performing rights organizations, in the Middle East by you guys, where Mohammed is at. That would be ESMA. In the States, we have ASCAP. We've just recently got out of an AI cohort with them, getting to understand more of the music side with the ASCAP and NYC Media Lab, and what other countries are doing behind the scenes and preparing for this AI boom in vocal and audio. And then we recently got in to be contributors with the C2PA, which there's many organizations involved in that. Google, Meta, every organization when it comes to media, social media, and
we're also reaching out to multiple platforms in order to integrate our stack with them from the beginning, having them multiply it on a bundle layer where they're providing their membership a level of security and an understanding that their infrastructure is compliant vertically through their platform, through SoundSafe, and then connected through the PROs, which handles all the publishing and royalties. And at the same time, we're already aligned with the steering committee. This gives a whole sense of what we call the badge of trust, becoming the underlayer. That has unlocked for us a lot of connections into academia to leverage three things. First, obviously, resources, high-level computation, and supercluster access through the NCSA, which happens to be the second biggest cluster in the United States. That trickles down into joint research, joint publications. We do meet with the C2PA with all our findings. We collaborate on them also with joint research, and we contribute algorithmic work to support their what they do monthly submissions to regulatory groups and have them admitted or not. So we're currently delved into what will become in the next 2-3 years the new standard of how content is proliferated, regulated, tracked, and authenticated.
I think that's the last slide, Muhammad. Yeah, awesome. So if there's any questions, we'll just talk. I mean, even to hear about anything going on in any other people's neck of the woods. Sorry, I'm getting blinded.
Sure, yeah. Thanks a lot for this amazing presentation. So I will request the community members who are there on the Zoom call and on YouTube to please put in your questions if what you have for the SoundSafe team, and we can take it forward. What I had a question. Now you mentioned that you are this how can community members contribute to this project of yours? Do you have something like a GitHub repo where you report issues, or just because why I'm asking this question, like if the people who are listening to this live or maybe the recording, if they are interested in this TTS space, the audio space, how can they start getting involved with you guys or contributing? And it can be for multiple things, for their own learning journey, because many of our community members are the learner community who is looking out for opportunities to contribute. And I always tell my community members, the best way to start your journey nowadays is internships is one option, but also to start open source contributions.
Yes.
And you learn a lot in that space. And if you are good enough, you get noticed and you get a full-time opportunity later on. So, so I just wanted to know from your side, do you have any
Well,
such
we
programs?
do. We are building in space in stealth, so you won't see any public gates or anything like that repository. But since we do work with the universities and things like this, the way we've done it is we've compartmentalized certain components of what we're doing, especially concerning IP, since we're a commercial company. We did it in a way that we can find algorithmics or certain stacks or novel ideas that we can both share and keep open source, but it wouldn't be giving up our whole concept of our product. So if people are very interested to partake or contribute, reach out to us. We will give and take. We'll profile ourselves and see our exact synergy points, and from there we'll definitely see if there's anything fruitful to come
Yeah,
from it.
and as well as if you're in the space of audio or intellectual property and not only speech and in music, and you have connections, we're actively doing partnerships and signing non-binding and binding LOIs. We're actively we were quiet for the last few years and we didn't really raise any money because we didn't need to. We're doing well, but we just started getting a lot of publicity in the United States, on Billboard and a lot of the major publicity, what magazine publicities, and we opened up some fundraising and partnerships. So we're open to that as well. And we're taking on some interns, depending on your, what your expertise is. We do a lot. So I know when it says audio AI, but there's a lot deeper. We do have a research and development company called Black Box, and that dives into more of the defense side of developing. But we do open internships as long as everything works out, and feel free to contact us. LinkedIn, that's the fastest way.
Oh.
Or email, the website, whatever's easier.
Yeah, I'm sharing the LinkedIn profile on the chat as well, and both John is yours as well. But one question, like if no one is asking question, there are some questions in the YouTube. One thing is we all know the generative AI space. There is a lot of talk about it. The large language model, the language space. Everyone knows about the learning journey. You need to know about large language models. Need to know a little bit about NLP, transformers, large language model, and then what is a journey that you typically look at? I'm sure you guys also have learned, you guys have gone through a journey of learning these technologies from
Right.
starting from Python to basic large language models, and then through TTS. And what else is there? Because this is something very interesting and something very new.
I would definitely add everything that has to do with transformers, everything that has to do with inverting neural networks, because everything we're doing is front and back. So think always reversibility, Fourier transforms, time windows, Hamming windows, everything that has to do with audio signal processing. And don't think as audio as anything sound, look at it as a visual. The second you want to extract data from audio, you turn it into a spectrogram, into a high resolution spectrogram. So it's visual computing in the end, visual AI ML.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes in our space is people are just diving into audio, but audio is visual and sound is a visual form when it comes to understanding the computation of what you're doing. And when you do find out that window of overlapment and you can kind of pierce the technology with audio, it opens up kind of like a world of different technologies that you didn't know that could overlap. Just because people, when they hear sound, they think of that, that's what all I hear, but sound is waves, forms, and turned into a spectrogram. It can be kind of
Right.
studied in different ways and trans back into sound and audio.
Yeah, so what I understand is Let me know. There are some questions. I will keep on asking questions, but just one thing is, what you are saying that like there are TTS models, right? TTS, text to speech models. But at the end of the day, what happens that the sound is converted to spectrograms, bits, and then that is getting processed. Is this the way more that I can simplify it? Or maybe it's a very easy simplification. Like for videos, we know what happens in videos, right? In
Correct.
videos, there are pixels. There are a
Yep.
lot of images that are at a bits per second that have been compressed and they are processed. That is mostly what happens in video LLMs, specifically. So in audio LLM, what I can understand that in some way, not exactly, there are for every voice bit that happens, there is a spectrogram, and that gets analyzed.
Correct. Correct. It's done exactly like an image would be. It's convolution at the end.
Nice.
Pixel, it comes down to a grid of pixels, exactly like you would think an image.
Nice. Thanks. I think Vignesh is asking a question. Vignesh, do you want to raise your hand?
Yes.
He's asking a question. I saw you mention AI versus AI. To what extent do deep fakes go to bypass detection?
Yep. The way I would explain that is AI right now is good enough to be manipulative in the sense of how it prompts an AI. So it can be witty in a sense to do a prompt injection, but soon they won't need to do that just because of their prosodic, like we do in real-time deepfake, the same way we detect. They're going to be applying these ways to avoid detection. This is where we come in with an algorithm we call the measure countermeasure. So it's always trying to be one step ahead of the deception in a way that chess is played. So again, there's algorithms that come to how chess is algorithmic. So we apply that to how the AI thinks in a sense when it comes to deceive an AI agent, while we're doing the real-time deepfake scanning of the manipulation of the audio. So there is a level of seeing what kind of deception is going on at the same time that there's the scanning of the audio signal itself.
Amazing. So I think okay, I have one more question specifically. What are you mainly? You mentioned that in this region you're looking for partners. One is the for contributing, and other is partners, like you said, companies that are audio streaming platforms. Like there is one audio streaming platform called Angami, Anghmami. It is pronounced Angami. Yeah, I think if you have might heard about it, or any other these type of music streaming platforms that are there. Does your capability SoundSafe have like if any sound streaming platform, if any like if I am loading my content there,
Right.
they can detect whether that content is it a copyright content or not. Like we have something in TikTok or something, right? And YouTube as well. So is it also doing that in a certain way?
It's not going to be a scrape because since we're deploying at a B2B level, we're deploying at an entity higher than them and the labels that distribute to them and the distributors that also send to them. So it would just be a matter of compliance and a non-vendorship, more partnership and agreement with Angami for them to do that. And we then would be able to interact with their API to scan.
And like I know about it because I work a lot in images and text. So in images, they put something and there is a lot of technology that goes behind it, an invisible watermark that cannot be decoded, or that cannot be easily by an by naked eye you cannot see it, or even if you decode it, only you need to have a programming encoding language that decodes that image and gets that. And like companies like Stable Diffusion, they have they have developed this technology. So in this case, like I'm sure you have put a watermark or something in your audio, but nowadays the technology and the hackers or whatever is they are bringing up softwares that can detect these watermarks and remove it, and and keep the others right. So duplicate
Yeah.
it and use it. So
Yeah.
are you also doing some research in making sure that it is decrypted so much that it is very few people can, only the people who have the encryption key can understand it?
Yes. What we do is we built a model and we rebuilt it to replicate synthetic DNA in the sense. We call it acoustic DNA. And this makes sure we can see anything that gets removed. So if you tampered with this watermark, even if you were removing it, we still saw the most smallest little detail that happened to this removal, and we can find out and retrieve that information that's still embedded into that file.
That's nice. Are you in the future thinking of using something in the blockchain space? Like maybe because it is because what you're trying to do. Sorry, I think he has to go.
Don, Don has to take a meeting quick, but I can still finish.
Sure, sir. Thanks a
So,
lot. Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Don.
we
Talk to you
appreciate you
soon.
guys.
thank
Mohammed,
you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great day. So, Johnny, I was asking this question, like, did you hear the last question that I told?
Yeah. Yeah. So, funny enough, when it was a lot harder to build an I would say probably in 2020, if you didn't have the access to major computation or developers to help you build. So at that time, we saw blockchain as one of the most powerful things you could use as far as technology when it came to audio and intellectual property. So we did build different technologies with blockchain, and we found it very useful. It's just when AI came to the advancements and of audio technology and AI, it helped us get a better understanding that blockchain maybe wasn't as strong as AI it could be in watermarking, but we did find out building a smart contract automatic payout system for intellectual property rights ownership was a possibility. And we built many smart contract, we call it a smart contract selector. And this is probably about 3 years ago. We wanted to use it for the music industry to make automatic payouts when you're dealing with distributions are trying to make payouts to their artists. And we just knew that the music industry wasn't ready for blockchain adoption. So in the States, at least out west here. So we saw AI kind of take more advancements when it came to the penetration into the audio or music side of things. And we just took what we knew best and kept focusing on the AI and building different models that would help us do what we want to do. But yes, blockchain can be leveraged just as good as AI in certain ways, when it comes to audio intellectual property, watermarking.
Great. Yeah, so today I think community is just absorbing your thoughts. If there are any questions, please do raise your hands. You can ask, take this opportunity from Johnny. We have 5 more minutes. I have also shared your LinkedIn profile on the chat for anyone to connect with you. Vignesh, you want to raise your hand and speak if possible, if you're comfortable. He's asking, how are you computing?
Like who are you using and we started building on a local cluster and training the original architecture. And that took us a long time. Obviously you guys know how slow that would be. We couldn't really do much with that. So we had to look into sourcing a third party. And we went with a few different people at first. Lambda was the original company we saw. AWS is somebody we're actually transitioning possibly with to now. But we've actually been talking with a company right now that's a little smaller on the side of computation, and just to try to train these initial MVP tools that we want to release to the public. With this company. But when it comes to the issue, what we're having, I guess, is large data. Like Don said, we're dealing with massive amounts of data. So the computing needs to be able to handle that. So right now we're on the verge of scaling to something more larger like AWS or Lambda.
One question I had, this is something that a lot of community members ask, voice cloning, right? Like, what are nowadays, it's very easy to clone your voice and use it for anything. It can be something wrong as well. And you were mentioning about this on your presentation also. So, what are some of the tips? Like, this is not more of a technical question, but more of a
Yeah.
uh, uh, practical question
Yeah.
to the community that you want to address, because you are working in this space. How can people, like companies or individuals, uh, uh, identify whether this is not the is a cloned voice? Because this was one in our community meetups we were discussing about this, because it is getting more and more personalized, even especially at the B2B level, where there is a voice note from your manager asking to process a check when actually he is not there. I know at a personal level but it's a little tough to have tools to check whether this is a clone or not. But according to you, what is your practical advice for people
So
about
yeah,
this?
so my practical advice, like right now, if you're in our space in AI or generative AI, you can kind of tell by ear a little bit. Like you said, Mohammed, the models are getting so more stronger and robust that I believe in the next year or two, we will not be able to tell whether it's AI generated music or audio from a human or not a human. Just because we know in the tech side of things, all it has to do is just get more refined and robust to these models and train them harder, which these models, these AI generative models, will get better. Right now, I would say that the measures, there's some things I think Google and some other companies are working on solutions. Like that's what our whole solution is from the watermark to the deepfake detection. It's kind of like a suite of tools to detect that and give you a notice saying, hey, this is AI generated, beware. Well, because the issue is a lot, it's not all n negative impact. Sometimes it might just be people want to speedline their business and might want to send their voice out to either interviews or businesses to get more business, and they're using an automated way to do it with their voice as a business. There's proper ways, ethical ways that are happening still. But like you said, Mohammed, there's also deception and there's unethical ways that people are training these models and stealing money from family members, bosses, writing checks. And right now, there's no state of the art. There's no way to kind of detect that. There's some technologies that you can purchase right now that are public. We're not public yet. Q2 of next year, we'll start seeing more announcements and going more public with what we're doing, and more B2B interactions. So if you're a business, feel free to hit us up between now and Q2 of 2025, or anybody that's interested in knowing, more about what our technology is.
This
But
is
yeah, I would be just be careful, when you're dealing with deception, because like you said, right now it's getting better and better.
So what I feel and is going to happen, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, like most of these audios are being sent through WhatsApp or these tools, and these tools like Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, then the Meta WhatsApp, when we get that voice note, it should have some mechanism to auto scan that voice note and see whether it is AI generated or not. And I think this is going to happen,
Yeah.
not now, but in the next 1 or 2 years it is going to happen, that because this is going to be a problem, and that's the reason these messages, if it is an AI generated, there are some things that are being used that we can understand. If you
Yeah.
are, you can, if it is too complicated, then it's tough. But I'm sure Meta and these companies where this transfer happens, like they can scan it. And I think YouTube is also coming up with this feature. I saw the Gemini release where they are getting better and better to see whether it is AI generated, but still it's very tough to, it's very early days right now, but let us
It'll
see.
get better, yeah. And like we mentioned, if you're watching this, look up the organization, the C2PA. We are direct contributors. So we work with Google, we work with Meta, Amazon, all the majors to contribute code. We specifically, us work in watermarking and deepfake, but there's multiple technologies that are contributed. This organization's of about 800 plus, from majors to people like us on the research and development side, contributing solutions. So when you see Google or Meta coming out with updates, it's our organization that we're involved in, C2PA, that is constantly pushing the boundaries on what we can do with watermarking and detection. And just look it up. They're coming out with amazing stuff every day. We're on the behind scenes. We meet them every week.
Can you tell it again? TT?
C2PA. I can't remember.
C2PA.
I can't remember the.
Yeah, got it. C2PA, got it.
Yeah.
Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity.
Yep.
An open technical standard providing publishers. This is something I am putting it on the chat. C2PA.
Yep, and this is a global world thing of multiple companies coming together. It's an initiative we believe in since day one, but now it feels good that we physically can contribute our research to an organization that, is evolved. Like you'll see the list of people on there, Mohammed. There's so many. Our logo should be up there in a few months. I think Q1 of next year, our logo goes up. So it's going to be nice to be involved.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for this. Yeah, any closing thoughts? I have already shared yours and Hamad's LinkedIn profile on the chat. Any
Yeah,
closing thoughts before we move to the next section of the event? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Anybody feel free to reach out. Again, we're very open in communicating. Um, anybody looking to do any work partnerships or possibly development, let us know. Thank you again, Mohammed, and for having us, everybody attending. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Johnny.
And I do have to run to another meeting. I would
Yeah,
stay.
no problem. Yeah, we will continue the next section. I just have Q&As. If the community has any Q&As and updates, I will just have it. Thanks for your time, Johnny.
Yes,
And
thank you guys.
I will share you the YouTube link as well. It is streamed on
Definitely.
YouTube. Yeah, and you can have a look.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good day, guys.
Anyone has any questions, any Q&As, any open items, please do raise your hands and we can take it forward. I think many people have left, but if you have any Q&A, I can stay back for some time and we can take it forward. You can raise your hands, you can put it on the chat. David, Parvez, Surendra, Syed, Vignesh. I think Vignesh, you were outside, you could not speak. Okay, I have unmuted the mics. If you want, you can. Oh, bad throat. Yeah, the weather is bad. Okay, anyone has any questions? Syed, you have any questions? Syed, Surendranath, Parvez, David? Before we can if we don't have any questions, we can wind up and we can use the Zoom chat for. Yes.